Well, hey, you guys, I'm here next to our newly arrived raspberry plants that just got shipped across the whole country. And today we're going to be planting these wonderful raspberries. Now, most people probably aren't planning on planting 40 raspberry bushes in their backyard, but that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our plan is and why we're going to do this. So we have a special delivery here today, and in these boxes are all these new, a little bit disgruntled though from all the traveling, raspberry plants, all the way from Georgia, and here they are all the way where we're at here in Utah 3 days later. So we have a whole bunch of them here, and we're going to be taking them out of the box and taking the plastic off of them and giving them a little drink here. We're going to set them down and let them just breathe. So before we get started planting, I just want to give you a little tour of the 65-foot row of this old flower bed or plant bed that they had in this new house we're in. And as you can see, we planted some fall broccoli, and we had a few, about 3 or 4 raspberry plants that we planted earlier in the spring, and we had cabbages and carrots and all sorts of other different vegetables. And that was really fun to do. And the kids really enjoyed it, and we also enjoyed eating all these things. And we even went to the farmer's market a few times, and that was really fun. But not only was it fun, it seemed like it was kind of educational for our kids to be able to grow the crops, take care of them, harvest them, bring them to the market, and deliver them directly to the customers and receive some payment in return. It just seemed like a really positive experience for the whole family. So this year, instead of growing some pieces of these different vegetables, we decided to plant a 65-foot row of this whole strip of bed into raspberries. So the question then, why pick raspberries out of all the different things we could grow? So these are 3 of the raspberry bushes that we planted this spring. Did quite well in their first year, and you can see they're not even very big, but each one of them produced, I would say, between a half quart to a full quart of raspberries each. They really put out. And next year, they're going to be quite a bit bigger and put out a lot more. Now, in speaking about the volume that the raspberries are able to put out in a small area, something like carrots is also able to do a lot of volume within a small area. A carrot only needs about 1.5 inches to grow to a nice full size. And you can see here, even in this small little patch, we have hundreds of carrots in here. The thing about carrots, in the end, is that for a 10-pound bag at the grocery store, they're just a few dollars. And the thing about the raspberries is that for a half-pint cup, we can charge anywhere between $5, $6, $7, depending on the market that we attend. So the value of the raspberry crop is very high, and we can also produce high volumes, so we can actually make some reasonable side money out of it. And one of the things at the farmer's market that we're really looking for in order to make a good amount of money and make it worth our time and make it exciting so that the sales come in nicely and it's fun is the raspberries provide an item that is very marketable because of their fresh eating ability. And just like a peach or a tomato, they can eat them right on the spot and enjoy them. Whereas something like the carrots and the broccolis and the potatoes and all these other different crops, although they're great for cooking, they're not as exciting at the farmer's market. So raspberries is a real winner for the farmer's market, and that's what we're going to go try to do. Let's talk a little bit about the type of raspberries that we've picked and where they came from. So these raspberries are a variety called Heritage, and on this tag they consider it an Everbearing raspberry. And what that means is that they kind of bear the fruit through the full season, and that will be through the summer and into the fall. We were having raspberries come off these plants right behind us just a few days ago. We were having some of the last raspberries come, so even into the middle of October, and we were having raspberries off this Heritage variety as soon as maybe around July 20th, the end of July. And that's about when our early Red Haven peaches come online too, that you may have seen in another video that we did when we went to the farmer's market this summer. And so these berries are going to line up really well with our other fruit that we're going to be bringing to the market. Now, some of the varieties are going to lean heavily into the fall for their bearing a big crop, much like a celebrity tomato would put on a big crop, as opposed to an early girl tomato where it kind of bears throughout the season. But these heritage are more like an early girl tomato where they're going to bear through the season. But when it says everbearing, is it every single day that they're just pumping out raspberries? Well, no. Really what they're doing is they're kind of putting on a medium crop up front, kind of in July, early August. And then they're going to recharge a little bit, and they're not going to put out too much, if any at all. And then at the end of September, maybe even middle September, going to the middle of October, they're going to put out an even bigger crop. And so that's kind of the nature of the heritage variety. But again, there are varieties that focus more on the summer, if that's what you're thinking about. And there's varieties that focus heavily on the fall, if that's what you're after, to have a large harvest all at once. And heritage is also a very well known variety for being very reliable, great tasting, good size, very disease resistant. It's just a great all around. If you were going to plant a raspberry in your backyard, heritage is one of the best ones that you can pick upon. So let's talk a little bit about timing. Fast Growing Trees was one of the places that was willing to ship them to me here at the middle of October. A lot of the nurseries are going to be waiting till springtime, maybe in March, to ship them to you to give them the best chance of survival. But I'm going to take a risk this fall. We've been having some mild winters recently, and it seems like it's going to be kind of another mild winter again. If I thought it was going to go down into the negative 20s and the negative 10s, I think I would wait till spring to plant these. But the fact that last winter it only went down to maybe 22 or 24, even in the middle of January, I think that these raspberries are going to be just fine. And the fact that I'm planting them this fall is going to give me a little bit of a head start than having to wait a whole nother 5 months from now to plant them in March. All right, guys, so enough talking, and now we're going to get to the fun part. We're actually going to do the planting. So one of the things I did here before we plant this area is I just kind of went through with the weeding hoe and chopped up the ground a little bit, and also I killed a bunch of the fall weeds that were in here. And so we're going to do that further down as well, but we have about 30 feet chopped up here right now. So we're ready to begin planting. We first need to think about spacing, because as we always talk about on pruning with our fruit trees, specifically the peach trees, and really growing anything, fruits or vegetables, is that the plants have to have enough room and enough space to be able to fulfill their mission. Otherwise, if they're too crowded, oftentimes the plants will not put on a very good production. The fruits and the vegetables will end up being small. So we want a good sized raspberry so that we can sell it, but also understanding that we have a limited space here. We only have about 65 feet. So we don't have 3 acres. We can just give them all the space in the world. So we're going to kind of make a compromise here. The raspberry bush would probably prefer to have 2 feet by 2 feet in a normal setting in the field, but we're going to go a little bit tighter than that. We're going to place them about 18 inches apart. Now I'm going to put my glasses on here so that I can read the measuring tape. I'm going to place the first plant a foot away from the fence at the 1 foot mark to give it just a little bit of extra room up against the fence here. But from then on out, when they're 18 inches apart, it basically means that they have 9 inches of room to grow from each other on their branches. So to give them a foot to start out with is an extra 3 inches. Again, we're talking small space here, so we got to make the space count. So we'll make a mark here with the shovel, and then from there we're going to go 18 inches. So we're going to go 2 foot 6, and we're going to go, what's the math, 4 feet. we're just about ready to put these in the ground now. If you come in close here, you may notice that the pots are starting to get a little bit dry in here. And so I think I'm just going to give them a little bit of water because they're going to be under stress now that we're transplanting them. And I think that water will also help them stick together a little bit better as we pull them out of the pots here. All right, so we're ready to plant our first plant here. So I'm just going to dig a hole. And you can kind of make the hole a little bit bigger than the size of the pot there so that the roots throughout the winter here have a little bit easier time spreading out into this new land that they've been planted in. And we can even just put the new pot in there and you can kind of see that it's close to lining up with the dirt level here. So that's about right. So we'll take this thing out of here. I think it's ready to come out. It already got pretty well shaken loose coming across the whole nation. So as we're looking at it here though, you can see the roots have hit the sidewall and they're wrapping around. So if it gets really bad, like some of these, you might just want to break it up just a little bit. I know it's going to be a little shocking to the plant, but better that than they keep going in winding a big ball here. Want to get it so that it looks a little bit like a shaggy woolly mammoth, and then get it loosened up there. Okay, now that I did that, it's kind of a little bit lower, and I don't really want to bury the plant too much up on the collar of the plant there. I want to kind of leave it, the plant at the level that it's used to being at. So I'm going to backfill just a little bit of extra dirt in there. And now, if you're doing this, it may be at a different time of year where it's not so wet. The soil is very wet right now here, so I don't think we need too much extra water. But during a hotter season, you may want to put some extra water in here as the roots are going to sit right on that soil. And we will give them some water after we get them in. So let's put it right there in the center of the hole and build the dirt around it. You can take your hands and just tuck it in, press the dirt down. Well, we have one plant down, only 39 more plants to go, so we better get busy. That one has an earthworm in it, all the way from North Carolina. I hope the North Carolina worms are as friendly as the Utah ones. You can see here that a few of the branches have been broken on some of these plants from the shipping, but that's okay. We're just going to leave them as they are. One of the things that we're going to do in the spring is we're going to prune off these old canes, but I don't want to do it yet because they have to go through the whole winter. And if we open up brand new wounds on these canes, sometimes if it gets cold, that cold can seep down into the open wound and kill the plant. We want to let these plants just get established as much as they can over the winter, and come March during the springtime, at that time we'll come and prune the old canes off and let the new canes come forth. So we've come quite a ways, but we're going to go into this area we haven't worked on yet. So I'm just going to take the hoe here and work up to the ground a little bit and also knock out these weeds while I'm at it. I'm just using the medium hoe here, so we have a straight blade there, and it's a nice strong hoe. Now's a really good time to talk about what the definition of a weed is. And usually the simplest definition is just to say something that's not wanted somewhere, because even a beautiful rose bush is a weed out in the middle of a potato field. So with that being said, I think you know what's about to happen here. We'll probably try to keep some of it for our Thanksgiving dinner, but the raspberries are going to take precedence today. So we've stopped here. We have about 12 feet of broccoli left. Sometimes it can be kind of heart-wrenching to pull out the plants that you've worked so hard to grow. Out of all the years I've farmed, we've had to kill some plants. Well, we've killed a lot of weeds, I'll tell you. Those are plants too. And sometimes that's just the way the farming is. Whew, wow, this is a workout. Well, most things in farming are. Starting to get dark here soon, and we're just about getting to the point where we have 32 of the plants in. So we'll probably stop there for the night and get these watered in as well. We will be doing a video on these raspberries again in March when we come through and prune them and also give them fertilizer for the coming season. Well, you guys, keep farming, even if it's in your backyard, and we'll see you on the next video.